Please welcome the 14th Librarian of Congress, Dr. Carla Hayden.
Well, good evening, everyone. Some of you might not know, but I started my career as a librarian working with young people. So nothing gives me more joy than meeting and engaging with young people about reading and books. So raise your hand if you love books. All right. Raise your hand if you kind of like reading. Kind of like reading? Now raise both hands if you love our special guest, Dav Pilkey. All right, all right. Now, because tonight, you can tell, we're excited to welcome back one of our favorite friends. We're so honored that he's launching tonight a gigantic world tour of his new book right here. And he's done so much to get everybody excited. And that includes following along with the story of Dogman, Petey, and of course, who's the other one? Captain Underpants. Now, his world tour that is starting tonight, and how many times can we say that we're at the start of a world tour, is about everyday heroes. And in fact, as you look around tonight, you'll see lots of heroes who helped make this a special night, and they're all wearing shields with the Dogman badge. So when you see them, give them a high five, okay? Thank you. And guess what? You're going to be the first audience to see a clip from DreamWorks' new Dogman movie before anybody else gets to see it. So tonight, I know. You've already gotten a free book, his newest book, and we just have to thank our wonderful partners at Scholastic. They're Dave's publisher. They've been longtime friends of the Library of Congress and the National Book Festival, so thank you, Dave and Scholastic. You received that copy of Big Jim Begins. So before you leave the library tonight, we're going to have some fun activities in the Great Hall and some snacks, thanks to Scholastic. So we're glad you're here, and I know you're probably glad that I'm closing this folder, because I think you're ready to see the man himself, Mr. Dav Pilkey!
Thank you. Thank you. Hello, everybody. Hello, DC. Hi. Hi, everyone. Hi. I'm Dav Pilkey, and I'm so pleased to be back here at the Library of Congress. You just met Dr. Hayden. She's a wonderful friend of mine, and I really believe that books bring people together, and I don't know that anybody has done more for bringing people together through literacy than Dr. Hayden, who is a personal hero of mine, and so I'm so happy to be here. Why don't we get started? Can you all see the screen up there? Okay, good. I was going to talk to you today a little bit about my life and about 4 different things that happened in my life, starting when I was a kid, that really changed things, that really changed my life. And so we'll start off with me as a kid. This is me as a kid. And yes, I was made out of Play-Doh. I had really good hair, though, so it wasn't all bad. But I also had something called ADHD, and I was dyslexic, and a few other things. I was a class clown, and I couldn't sit still, and I was a bit disorganized and fidgety, and I was a smart aleck, and I questioned authority. Things started to pile up a little bit. I made rude noises with my armpits. I didn't use my touch. Well, did you ever hear of Flat Stanley? Well, these things kind of left me feeling like, a little bit like Flat Dave. But I think one of the biggest challenges that I had when I was a kid was when it came to reading. I have dyslexia, which means that my reading skills are not as good as most of the people, especially when I was a kid. Most of the kids in my class, in fact, I think all of them, didn't have dyslexia. So they could read just fine. They were really good readers. And if my teacher ever said, okay, everybody, take out your books and let's open them up and start reading, everyone was super happy. They just got big smiles on their faces and then they read just like it was normal. But when I had to open my book, my hair would go boing like that, and I'd start to get really nervous, and my teeth would start to chatter because I couldn't keep up with everybody, and I couldn't read as well, and I'd start to shake, and I'd start to sweat a little bit. Well, actually, I sweated a lot. Actually, there's a lot of sweat going on there when I was a kid. Pretty soon, the whole classroom filled up with sweat, and everybody's feet got wet. It was not pleasant for anybody, but I also used to get in trouble in school. I had some behavior problems, and my teacher didn't really know what to do with me, so she would send me out into the hallway, and I'd be out there all by myself with my hair, and but I felt a little sad and a little bit lonely, and sometimes I was a little upset when I would come home from school. I'd feel like, how come I'm the only person that has these problems, it seemed like? Why am I the only one with dyslexia? How come I'm the only one with ADHD? And I was so sad and I was so upset, but I was also really lucky because my mom is like one of the most positive people in the whole world. She has the best attitude. And she always believed that anything bad can get turned into something good if you have the right attitude. My mom has something called positivity, and that's one of the four things I'm going to be talking to you about. They all start with the letter P, so they're easy to remember. But positivity, my mom's positivity was so strong and so powerful that it started to rub off on me. And after a while, I found myself asking good questions instead of bad questions. And one of the big questions I was asking myself, every time something would go wrong, I'd ask myself this really important question is, how can I turn this into something good? How can I take this bad thing and turn it into a good thing? And right away I got a really good idea because I was sitting out in the hallway all the time. And I thought maybe I could use that time to draw pictures. And so that's what I did. I got a pencil and a piece of paper, and I started making up my own characters and drawing pictures and making comics. You recognize that guy I'm drawing? Yeah. So Dogman was one of the first characters I ever created. This is one of the first comic books that I made over 50 years ago when I was 8 years old. And Dogman basically started out as a regular dog. And one day there was a terrible storm and lightning flashed down from the sky. And that resulted in one of the greatest special effects ever featured in a comic book ever. You ready for this one? Okay. Pow. Pretty impressive, huh? Now, I don't know if you're aware of this or not, but dogs, when they get struck by lightning, they develop superpowers. And so Dogman, for some reason, he grew a cape and he flew up in the air, and for some reason, birds could talk. And and Dogman was really a great hero because, like, if there was ever somebody in trouble, like if an airplane was falling, he would just grab his leash and he would kind of like a lasso, and he'd grab the airplane and he would just like fly it down to the ground, and everybody was safe. And Dogman was a great hero. He was a great hero. Just like my mom, who always looked out for me and always helped me to be positive. Now, my mom was also a musician. She plays the piano and she played the organ at our church. And I wonder if you can answer this next question for me, because let's pretend that you were my mom when she was a little girl and she wanted to become a great musician. What do you think she'd have to do every single day? That's right, practice. And this is our second word that starts with the letter P that really influenced my life. Now, I'm not a musician, but my mom knew that I loved to draw and I loved to make up stories. And so she and my dad encouraged me to practice all the time. And they encouraged me to make comics just for them. They actually kind of commissioned comics that I would make just for them. And you can sort of tell, like when I first started making Dogman, it didn't look so good, but the more I practiced, the more I started to improve. My drawings got better, and my spelling got better, and my stories got better, and eventually even even the books that I was writing, just everything kind of improved because I was practicing all the time. Now, I don't just practice drawings. I actually practice making toys. This is one of the things that I used to do when I was a kid. I loved taking broken toys and getting some masking tape or some duct tape and some other pieces of plastic, and I would turn these things with cardboard and wire into new toys. And so this is a scene of my very messy studio in Japan where I make a lot of comics books out of toys for a series that I've done called the Cat Kid Comic Club. Have you ever read that series? Okay, good. Oh, good. Well, this is kind of some of the things that I used to do. Like if you see the smoke that's coming out of that motorcycle, that's just made out of like an old pillow that somebody was going to throw away. I took the stuffing out and I glued it to some paper. And these are made out of salad dressing lids and some old broken toys that I just kind of taped together. And one of the things that I think is kind of cool about that is that this is something that everybody can do. We can all do things like this. We can take broken pieces of plastic and we can tape it together to other things. And not only can we create toys and characters, but we can also come up with stories. And it really doesn't take much. It doesn't cost much money. And it really just takes a lot of imagination and a whole lot of practice. And so that's what I've been working on a lot. And I owe it all to my mom, who not only changed my life, but she actually influenced some characters in my life too. Those of you who know Dogman, you know Little Petey, right? Well, Little Petey is based on my mom. Little Petey is such a positive influence on Petey's life, and because Little Petey is so positive and encourages Petey to become a better cat, and that's kind of what my mom has done for me. So my whole life, I was making comics up through high school and even into college, and I had a professor in college who encouraged me to write children's books. And so when I was 18 years old, I wrote my very first book, and it's called World War I. And I was so happy because I sent the book to a contest and it got published. When I was 19 years old, I was so happy and so excited. I thought, everything is going to be super easy from now on because I'm a teenage published author. And that's when I learned about the third P, which is persistence. Persistence is a big word. If you don't know what it is, don't feel bad. It just basically means trying as hard as you can and never giving up, even if things start to get hard. And it's a good thing I learned about persistence because my life was just about to get really hard. My first book did come out, but it didn't sell very many copies. And so I was a traveling author, and I would go around the country, and I would speak at schools, and I would give a speech about being an author. And that was going okay until one time when it flooded really bad, and I lost about $7,000 worth of books, and I almost got kicked out of my apartment, and I was really, really desperate. But I had one ace in the hole. I had just finished writing my second book, which was called 'Twas the Night Before Thanksgiving. I thought, if I can get this published, everything will be okay. So I made kind of a rough draft, and probably some of you kids have done that too. When you maybe write something for school, you do a rough draft. And when I was done with my rough draft, I took all the pages and I stapled them all together, and I turned it into a little sample book, and I sent it out to a publisher in New York City. And I was so excited because 2 weeks after I sent the book out, they wrote back to me. And I couldn't believe it. I was so happy. And I took the envelope and I opened it up, and they didn't like my book. And I was really sad because I worked really hard on that book. But I thought, you know what? I'm not going to give up. I'm going to send that book to a second publisher. And so that's what I did. I took the book out, and I sent it to a second publisher, and 2 weeks later, they wrote back to me. And guess what? They didn't like it either. But I didn't give up. I took that story, and I sent it out to a third publisher. I figured three times the charm, right? So I sent it out to the third publisher, and guess what? They didn't like it either. So I sent it out to a fourth publisher, and a fifth publisher, And it's 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. 23 different publishers. 23 different publishers did not like my book one bit. And they sent it back and said, no thanks. And I was heartbroken. I was like, oh no, nothing good is gonna ever happen. But you know what? I sent it out to a 24th publisher. Why not? And a couple weeks later, they wrote back to me. And I wasn't really expecting anything. But you know, but they liked it. They really liked it. In fact, they wanted to publish it. And I was so excited that my head exploded. Okay, my head didn't really explode. But I was so excited because my book was going to be published, and I'm so glad I didn't give up. It actually came out 35 years ago. It's still in print, and I'm really so happy that I didn't give up, because if I had, this book would never have been published. And actually, none of these books would have ever been published, and there would never have been a Captain Underpants movie, and there would never have been a Captain Underpants TV show, and there would never have been a Dog Man musical, and I wouldn't have been able to work with so many wonderful people, so many great artists, like the Cat Kid Comic Club musical, or, coming out tomorrow, the Dog Man movie. So that wouldn't have happened either if I had given up. So that's the third P. And now we're going to come to the final P that we're going to talk about tonight. Had a lot of P tonight. Sorry about that. But the final P is probably the most important one, and that is purpose. And it's something that I've been thinking about most of my adult life, because I know that we all have a purpose in this world. You know, we're all here for a reason. And that's something that I've been thinking about, not only in my own life, but also I've been exploring in the Cat Kid Comic Club series. The last 3 books have been all about purpose, because all the baby frogs in this story have been trying to figure out what their purpose is. And these are 3 of the frogs from the books. And the little blue frog up there, her name is Poppy, and she actually figured out her purpose, even as a kid. Her purpose, according to Poppy, is to make the world a better place every day. And she does this by just kind of doing simple things, by just being kind to people, and by being helpful, and being grateful, being thankful for things. And her brother mentions that, you know, those are just little things. How can little things make the whole world a better place? And Poppy does something kind of unusual. She reaches down and she picks up a little pebble. And she shows it to her brother and sister, and she says, you know, this is pretty small, right? And they think so too. And so, but watch this. And she throws the pebble out into the water, and it goes blip right into the water. And then something interesting starts to happen. Because of that little pebble, these circular waves start to come out, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And all of those circular waves, as they reach out, they bounce off of stuff and they create waves of their own. And they start to move things in very, very subtle ways, sometimes in ways that we can't even see. And so I think Poppy is saying to her brother and sister that even the smallest of us, even the littlest kids here, can actually make a huge, huge difference in this world. We can all change the world through our kindness, and through being helpers, and through our gratitude. And so that's one of the messages that I kind of have in my book, and it's one of the things I really wanted to share with you, that even the smallest of us in this audience really, we're very, very powerful. And if you don't believe me, I want to show you a picture of somebody. I'm getting emotional. This is my mom. And she is the person who helped make me what I am today by her positivity and her influence. She is just one person who changed my world just like I know that all of you have the power to do. So we're going to change things up right now, and I'm going to draw some pictures. Is that okay? Okay. Okay. I'm going to move this back just a little bit. Now, last time I was here, everybody got very excited, and people started rushing the stage, and the fire marshal got really mad at me. So we're going to have to try to be a little bit more mellow and chill today. But, I wanted to show you something. See, usually when an author comes to town, the audience raises their hands and they ask questions, and the author answers the questions. But we're going to do things a little different today. I'm going to ask questions based on the drawings that I do. And if you know the answer, I'd like you to raise your hand. And I have a friend over here named Charisse who's going to help choose people. And I have a friend over here, Lizette, all the way in the back, who's also going to help choose people who might know the answer. And we have like gift bags filled with all kinds of cool stuff, including an autograph book that I drew a picture in. So if you get it right. Now the first drawing I'm going to do are two kids that you probably already know. Very good. Very, very good. Okay, this is Harold from the Captain Underpants books. And I'm going to draw his friend George next, but one thing I get asked a lot, people ask me, did I ever know anybody in my life like George and Harold? And the answer to that is yes, because I knew myself. George and Harold are based on me. They're both based on me when I was a kid. They both have ADHD just like I do. And they both make comics just like I did when I was a kid. And they both sometimes get in trouble in school like I did sometimes when I was a kid. But they both use their imaginations and their sense of humor to try to make the world a better place, a brighter place. And I kind of tried to do that too sometimes. So this is George and Harold. And I'm going to ask a question about these two guys. See if you know the answer. George and Harold, one time in the Captain Underpants books, they made a big mistake around their principal. They snapped their fingers and hypnotized him. And does anybody know what their principal turned into? What superhero did their principal turn into?
Captain Underpants!
That is correct. Very good. Congratulations to our first prize winner. Okay. A lot of people. Uh-oh. I already messed this up. Sorry. Made it too big. Okay. A lot of people ask me about this guy here. That's pretty good. This is a robot from Dogman. And his name is ADHD. And you might have noticed that ADHD's name sounds a lot like what I had as a kid, ADHD. Now, I kind of created this guy because I don't really agree with the words ADHD. It stands for Attention Deficit Hyperactivity Delightfulness. You might have heard of it. And but actually, I have a problem with it because it kind of sounds like the first two words are attention deficit. It kind of sounds like people with ADHD can't pay attention. And that's simply not true. I make books for a living, and you really have to be able to pay attention when you make books. So I think what it is that people with ADHD have trouble paying attention to boring stuff. So maybe people just need to stop being boring, you know? Maybe it's not our fault. But you know, the last D really does stand for something for a word that means disorder, and I don't think it's a disorder at all. I really feel like my ADHD is kind of a superpower. And maybe some of you with ADHD agree, or maybe you know somebody who feels that way too. But because I felt like it was a wrong term, I wanted to create a character that reminded people that ADHD is actually really a superpower. So maybe when they hear this, they might think of this, and they might think of a robot who is very creative and uses his imagination, and he is a really good friend. And I hope that people will think of this when they hear that. So here's my next question, and maybe Lizette will find somebody in the back who knows the answer to this. ADHD is a robot, and he was built by somebody from the Dogman universe. So does anybody know who built ADHD? It could be one of two answers.
Petey.
I'm sorry?
Petey.
Petey is correct. Very good. Congratulations to our second prize winner. Now speaking of Petey, there is a cat from Dogman named Petey, and he's kind of based on me. I said this to a group the other day, and one of the kids said, "You mean you're evil?" Not exactly. But when I was a kid, people used to tell me, because I misbehaved a lot, they used to tell me that I was a bad person, and I kind of grew up thinking that I was a bad person, and it's very much like this guy here too. I think he had a misunderstanding about himself, and it wasn't until he met little Petey that he started to finally believe in himself. And so this is one of my favorite characters from the Dogman universe. And the question about this guy, let's see, I won't make it too hard. When Petey creates a clone, does anyone know the name of his clone? Or his son?
Little Petey.
Little Petey is correct. Very good. Thanks. Congratulations. Okay. I'm getting a sign that we have time for one more. So should we do a really hard one? Yeah. Okay. Okay, see if you know who this is. This is going to be tough. Okay. And we're going to go with Lizette again in the back, is that right? Okay. The question is, does anybody know who this guy is?
Dogman.
Dogman is correct. Very good. Congratulations to our fourth prize winner. Okay, now we're going to do something else pretty soon. I'm actually going to go out there because we're going to wrap things up pretty school. I know this is a school night, and you kids are really anxious to get home and go to sleep, right? Well, okay. Well, if you're allowed to, I would love to meet all of you. So I'm going to be out there at the end of the presentation, and I hope that you'll stop by and say hello, and that we can meet and talk and all that. But before I go, I just wanted to say one last time that we are, all of us here, even the smallest of the small in this room, are all very, very powerful, and I hope you'll remember that. Thank you for being a wonderful audience. I'm going to leave now with a scene for the new Dogman movie, right? Oh, is that it? Is that okay? Okay. All right. Thank you once again. And let's...
Unbelievable! Unbelievable! I tried to get rid of those two ding-dongs, and instead, I made a super cup! I gotta do something to get rid of the dog man. You're going down, dog man. So down. Oh, dog man, dog. I got it! What do dogs hate?
Yeah, we're not doing this. You fired me.
Oh, yeah. But doesn't mean you can't answer.
Yeah, it does.
Vacuum cleaners! Dogs hate vacuum cleaners! I'll build a huge, high-tech, massively expensive vacuum cleaner!
Yeah, okay, dogs also hate firecrackers, and they're like $5.
Well, who asked you?
Literally, you did, like 30 seconds ago. BT Dubs, you owe me a paycheck.
Evil villains don't write paychecks!
The gold coins you gave me were chocolate.
You get what you deserve!
Oh, please. Nobody likes that dog man anyway.
Dogman's here.
Dog man, get in here now! I don't like this. Look at me. Hey, get off me. Okay, stop. Look, listen up. Look, you may get a lot of attention around here because you're smart and you do kung fu and you have visible stitches on your neck. But you work for me and you do what I say. You understand? The last thing I need is you messing up. You got it? I get enough grief from the mayor. Pity the world's most evilest cat, escaping from jail all the time. The mayor yelling at me and making me look bad again, and I'm trying. Dog man, I'm trying, you know? Huh? No, will you get